for joining us. I want to call the March meeting of the Cleveland Heights Planning Commission to order. I just want to note that all the commissioners are present except for Commissioner Horowitz. But if he comes, we will allow him to join us. He may be running late. Also, we had the minutes sent to us from the February meeting. Any changes or edits? No. Okay. That being the case, we'll just ask that they'll be entered into the record as shared with us. And I want to note on the agenda that number 3 on the agenda, project number 25-09 is no longer going to be before this commission. They no longer need a permit for reduced parking. They're just keeping their 2-car garage in a different format. So they'll go to the Board of Zoning Appeals instead. And we're going to move right on ahead to project number 25-10, One Pot USA, 1825 Coventry. And Brooke, is that you for both? Oh, yes. I see I didn't write it in as the note. So if anyone is going to be speaking today, either as an applicant or a member of the public, our assistant law director will swear you in. Please rise. Everyone, for all cases, not just this one, but for any case tonight. Yeah. Anyone that might speak, even if you think you might.
Okay. Do you affirm or do you swear to testify to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you to our assistant law director for consistently reminding me to do this. Okay, Brooke, it's all yours.
Okay, this is project number 2510 at 1825 Coventry Road, and they're requesting a lot re-subdivision. The primary parcel is located at 1825 Coventry Road and consists of One Pot, a Korean hot pot and barbecue restaurant. The 2 subject properties have a combined total area of 15,011 square feet and are located 2 and 3 lots northwest of the Coventry and Lancashire Road intersection. The properties are zoned S2 mixed use and are neighbored by buildings with other businesses also zoned S2 mixed use to their northeast and south, and more businesses zoned C3 general commercial to their west. The applicant requests to combine the primary parcel, being approximately 55 feet wide with an area of 7,135 square feet, with the southern portion approximately 61 feet wide with an area of 7,876 square feet. The resulting parcels will remain zoned S2 mixed use and will continue to be code conforming. And the applicant wants to re-subdivide their lot in order to construct a new addition to the building to allow additional enclosed all-season seating space. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the lot re-subdivision to combine the 2 parcels as shown on the submitted and approved site plan, with the condition that the plan be signed by the Director of Law and Director of Planning and Development prior to submittal to the County Recorder.
Okay, thank you. And just to be clear, even though we're talking about a re-subdivision, this is a adjoining. We're putting them together.
Exactly.
I always like to clarify. Are there any questions for staff? No. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Do you want to speak to anything? Okay, thank you. All right, well, this sounds like we might be ready for a motion. Is anyone want to make a motion? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve project number 2510, One Pot USA, 1825 Coventry Properties, Coventry Road, requesting the re-subdivision of the lots as described in the presentation for code chapters 1111, 1115, 1121, and 1161.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Good luck. You do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting. So unless you want to, it's up to you. No pressure. Thanks. And we're going to move on to project number 25-11. This is Artful Inc. at 2555 Euclid Heights. And Brooke?
Yes, this is project number 2511. They're requesting a conditional use permit to adaptively reuse a former church to become a community arts center and a reduction in required parking to allow 23 parking spaces where 56 are required. The subject property is located on the southwest corner of the Euclid Heights Boulevard and Edge Hill Road intersection. The property previously housed the St. Albans Church congregation. The property has an area of about 45,646 square feet. The property is zoned A single family and is surrounded by single family houses also zoned A single family in all directions. The applicant is requesting to create a vibrant, community-driven arts hub in the former St. Albans Church. Artful aims to provide affordable space to support and educate artists to help them create and display their art while making creativity and inspiration more accessible to the community at large. The applicant expects the facility to be able to accommodate about 25 private studios and offices for artists and creative professionals. The artists will be able to access their dedicated workspace every day at any time. Daily operations will primarily take place indoors with an expected daily occupancy of approximately 20 people at a time, which may consist of about 10 artists, 5 staff members, and up to 5 visitors at any given time. Occasional outdoor workshops may be held during daytime hours as well. Special events may take place indoors and/or outdoors during daytime or evening hours, and will adhere to all noise and gathering ordinances to ensure minimal impact on the surrounding community. In future phases, when the applicant is able to meet the building and fire codes required for assemblies, the first floor sanctuary will eventually be repurposed into a community flex space, serving as a venue for art-making workshops, educational programs, lectures, and special events that invite the broader community to engage with the creative process. The lobby and hallways will function as gallery spaces, hosting rotating exhibitions that showcase local and regional artists. These exhibitions will give community members a chance to experience art firsthand and connect with the artists, hopefully encouraging dialogue, appreciation, and inspiration. Artists will access the building using a key for the front entrance. The applicant plans to install an electronic key fob system as soon as it's practical so that each artist has its own unique code that can be deactivated when they are no longer part of Artful. When these changes are made, key access will be limited to the executive director and board president. The building will also have multiple cameras set up at all entry points and key interior locations. Artful's executive director will self-perform all cleaning services. As additional studio spaces become available for artists, the applicant will consider engaging professional cleaning services once or twice a month. And the applicant is also requesting a reduction in required on-site parking spaces to allow 23 parking spaces on the property where 56 are required. Visitors of the building will consist of artists accessing their leased studio space and will come on their own schedules. The applicant does not expect to need more than the presently provided amount of parking spaces and will make necessary adjustments when needed. And these are the standards under which an adaptive reuse of an existing non-residential building in a residential district can be approved. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit to allow the applicant to adaptively reuse the former St. Albans Church to become a community-driven arts hub operated by Artful, and also the reduction in parking to allow 23 total on-site parking spaces where 56 are required as shown on the submitted site plan with the following conditions. The use is to not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity or create a nuisance for adjacent properties. The applicant is to work with staff to resolve any complaints from neighbors. The applicant is to obtain any required approvals from the Architectural Board of Review and/or Board of Zoning Appeals. The applicant is not to hold assemblies until the pertinent requirements from the building and fire code are met. The applicant is to return to the Planning Commission if any changes to the total available number of parking spaces are made, and the applicant is to submit a landscaping plan to be approved by the zoning administrator.
Thank you. I actually have, so was this building vacant
Yes.
prior? And did it have a conditional use permit at all attached to it? Was that just a function of timing? Like the church preceded the?
So many of our places of worship are deemed to have conditional uses, but they haven't actually gone through a conditional use process as they were in place prior to the code.
Okay, and that, I was asking mostly because of the parking, like if that's the parking, I was curious how that had worked, but if there was no prior conditional use permit. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. There are other questions for staff right now? No? Okay. The applicant is here. Would you like to share something? Just come up to the microphone and share your name and address and confirm that you've been sworn in.
Good evening. My name is Lee Chilcote. I live at 2322 Delamere Drive. I'm here tonight on behalf of Artful, not so much as counsel, but as advisor and a very strong supporter of this organization. After I talk for a few minutes, I'm going to ask the board chair, Brady Dindia, who's over here, and Shannon Morris, who's executive director, to talk more specifically about the details, and I will be quite brief. We have the intention of acquiring the St. Albans property, and if we receive approval this evening, may be able to close this by the end of March of this. We've done a lot of work. We're finalizing our negotiations and discussions regarding that. Initial daily operations, as outlined in the application and the report, will consist approximately of 10 artists and 10 staff people and some visitors, all is indicated in the report. Ultimately, it'll get to a higher number, but will not exceed the parking requirements, maybe to anticipate a question there. As you know, Artful, as you may know, Artful was a model tenant in the Coventry Peace Building from 2015 to January of this year, and has fairly wide support within the community for its activities. That's what makes Cleveland Heights home of the arts. Having personally witnessed Artful's operations for a lot of years and been a little bit part of the organization, I can say pretty much without equivocation that Artful's presence strengthens our community for home of the arts. A particular note is Artful's compassion for support of newer artists, artists with disabilities, and less resourced artists. That's what it's about. With that much said, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let, I guess Brady wants to go first. Brady Dindia, the chair, talk in some depth about the specific uses, and then I may come back for any questions you have or not.
Just if you could state your name and your address, please, for the record.
My name is Brady Dindia, and I'm actually a resident of University Heights, 3801 Westwood, and I am the co-founder and board chair of Artful. Cleveland Heights, as Lee said, is known as home of the arts, but it's hard to fully live up to that identity without an actual home for artists to create. The Heights area, especially Cleveland Heights, has the largest concentration of working artists in all of Cuyahoga County, but dedicated studio space has been nearly non-existent. So that's, I shouldn't say non-existent. Group setting has been non-existent. You might find individual artists who have repurposed an office space or a storefront here and there, but a group setting like Artful is pretty much non-existent on this side of town. And Artful set out years ago to fix that, to fill that void, and to help stop the brain drain, the creative brain drain from Cleveland Heights to artists leaving all the way for the west side to create their artwork. We wanted to try and keep them here, not only to make their lives easier, but to add to the cultural diversity of Cleveland Heights and to live up to this name, Home of the Arts. When we were located at the Coventry Peace Building, we provided studios for over 30 working artists. We believe that helped to revitalize the creative identity of Cleveland Heights, and it certainly contributed to the vitality of the Coventry Business District. Purchasing and reusing the former St. Albans Church offers both artists and Cleveland Heights residents a lasting space for creativity and connection. It's a very creative reuse of an underutilized space and a way to ensure that Cleveland Heights remains a creative and vibrant community. the location of St. Albans is ideal for us, being located between the Coventry Business District and Cedar Fairmount District. Allows us to build on partnerships we've already established from our previous location and grow those partnerships. And that also means we get to grow our ability to connect with the greater community of Cleveland Heights and the surrounding areas. Artful is a community within a community. We don't just serve artists, we connect them with neighbors. We create meaningful connections and experiences in that way. But we also cherish and respect our neighbors' diverse needs. And we aim to become an integral part of the fabric of their neighborhood. Approving our conditional use permit tonight will allow us to retain several artists that were displaced when the former Coventry Peace Building closed. And we can help, again, preserve this identity of being a welcoming town for artists. Within a year, as Lee said, we expect to have 25 fully occupied studios generating new artistic and economic activity in the area. And we are fully committed to compliance with zoning, fire, and ADA regulations. And we look forward to continuing to work closely with city officials to ensure responsible operation. So with that said, I just want to say, we hope to be part of this very special moniker that Cleveland Heights has. And I'm going to have Shannon speak to you a little bit about kind of who Artful is and what Artful does.
Hello, I'm Shannon Morris. I'm also a resident of University Heights, but I was born and raised in Cleveland Heights.
I'm sorry, can you just give your address for the record?
3709 Meadowbrook Boulevard.
And
Shannon Morris. So I'm the executive director of Artful and co-founded it with Brady Dindia. I just want to share a little bit about what we do. So let me see here. I wrote it down. My glasses don't work. I'd like to share more about how our artists actually use the space and why having a permanent, accessible home like St. Albans is so meaningful. Artful isn't just a row of individual studios. It's a working, collaborative space where artists create, share ideas, and connect. On any given day, you might see one artist working on a large painting in a private studio, another making a large collage, someone weaving a textile piece or using a 3D printer or mixed media tools, all workspaces suited to specifically meet their needs. Because we're a shared community, artists collaborate informally, exchanging feedback, sharing skills, and encouraging one another to push their art practice further. To accommodate the varied schedules of working artists, many of whom balance other jobs and family responsibilities, artists will have 24-hour access to their studios. That said, the vast majority of artists typically use their spaces during regular business hours and early evenings and weekends. For safety and security, the building will remain locked. Only artists with keys or codes will be able to access it, and visitors will need to make appointments to visit the studios with an artist. St. Albans also offers a rare level of accessibility with an elevator and a layout that allows us to continue supporting artists with physical and developmental disabilities, which is a vital part of our mission. Few creative spaces provide this kind of access, and without it, many artists would have nowhere to create. By approving our conditional use permit, you will help ensure that artists of all abilities and backgrounds will have a safe, welcoming space to work on a daily basis, to create, connect, and contribute to the creative identity of Cleveland Heights. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. I'm not sure, Lee or whoever. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe Lee, you mentioned, and this is somewhat related to, but so Artful is in the process of purchasing the building? Okay.
Yes, we have been working closely with the Episcopal Diocese of Ohio. In fact, we had a discussion today. We're anticipating with your approval, the only other things we need to do is we will need to have a point of sale inspection, of course, and take responsibility for those items which we're prepared to do. And we've made arrangements for that.
And then I know, like further on down the line, there's an idea of using it as a community space or a gallery. And do you think that the parking reduction is still sufficient for that use down the line.
Yes, and they could speak to this as well, but I have watched Artful over at Coventry Peace, and as you know, they have that parking area along Washington Boulevard there. I have never seen 25 cars, even for events. Occasionally, the events, there have been some large events there, but there are a few times a year. And people pick up on the streets or the public parking lots, which is what we propose to do here. I don't see any permanent need. We did look at the site plan and see whether it could be reconfigured because the size of the spaces is rather large. We think we can get 4 or 5 spaces, but we're not anticipating ever needing or trying to get to 56. That helps.
Yes, that does. Thank you. Are there other questions for that?
Oh.
But,
I just had a comment.
for all of us or?
Yeah. But
Let's hold. Let's just
I can
do,
hold it.
yeah, let's hold. Let's do questions for the applicant first. Jessica, do you have any?
Just clarifying, the current conditional use would be for essentially the private 24-hour studio space, excluding special events? Or would that be inclusive? Is there like a time consideration? Should there be?
So I think, just looking at staff's recommendation, it would be for the full adaptive reuse,
Okay.
for all the uses.
Yes, we cannot use, just to be clear with the commission, we are not able to use the space for assembly until we establish a sprinkler system in the building. And so we're going to abide by that, and that's, we've talked to the building commissioner and the fire chief and law department and planning and so forth, and we're comfortable with that because we only have events a few times a year, and our real effort is to put the artists in place, make sure that they can continue to build their livelihood and support them. That's what we want to do now. So there will be kind of a second phase, but not until we do the necessary improvements. And as you can imagine, sprinkler systems are expensive, so we're going to have to raise some money. Does that help?
Is there a specific question for once the assembly component would be put forth, would there be an amendment or an additional conditional use permit moved forward?
Yeah, they would come back to the planning commission for a revised conditional use permit.
Okay.
A revised based on parking, or in general, you think they're going to?
Based on the activity. So if there's assemblies, then it would have to be added to their conditional use permit.
Okay, because just from a language perspective, I don't think that's clear in the staff recommendation. So perhaps, I don't know if, Justin, you have a recommendation for limiting the language. I mean, it's because I read it as being inclusive of any type of use. I mean, it says an arts hub, and if that's what they put forth, they just say that they won't hold the assemblies until.
No, I think the language in the report, as I read it, was clear that we do have to come back.
Was number 4.
I'll leave it at,
No, I know it's number 4, that they're not to hold assemblies, but the conditional use permit, as I read it, it doesn't say that it's just not permitted until they get the fire and building codes. But if staff is saying that they want them to come back, then I think we just need to limit the language. I'm not saying this is a problem. I just want to be clear on the conditional use permit language.
Can we do that orally here, or do you?
Yeah, no, I think we can. I mean, and we can hold that while we do questions.
I think also look at what's on the agenda, because the agenda item's a little bit different than what's on this recommendation. See if that makes.
Oh, so which language would you like us?
I was going to say, I think the language on the agenda makes it clear that it's for the
Yes.
art studio.
I agree.
And perhaps then you would also want to say that for number 4, that the applicant would come back
Yes.
for a conditional use at that time. I mean, that's what we discussed.
Yeah, it seems like we're all in agreement. I just want to make sure. And I do agree that the number 5 agenda description is precise, better than the staff recommendation language. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Yes.
Sir?
Lee, we might need you back. Hold on.
This is just a
your
comment
exercise.
as a neighbor. I live 2 blocks down the street, and there's a question in here, but give me a minute. My wife and I were always frustrated with St. Albans not taking care of the hillside. Brooke, would you put up the picture of the driveway? The front door. I think it was the first slide. There, right there. The hillside has been an eyesore for years, and the congregation never really took care of it. There were some efforts to go out and do a little putzing now and then it would just become an overgrown weed bed all summer long. And when the church finally closed, my wife actually placed a call to the diocese's office, and they committed to mow the hillside, which they've done ever since the property became vacant. And I think a couple other congregations have briefly been in there. My question to Artful, and I think this would be a great idea, is to use that hillside to proclaim what's going in there with some really artistic landscaping, some sculpture, some art and whatever it might be, to dress that up and really make it an exciting part of the community.
We appreciate this suggestion and would like to involve the community in helping us with the landscaping.
And there's a sure, you could just come up to the microphone so we could capture it for the minutes.
I have a question and a comment. The first question is, it said that the landscaping, we had to go, get approval. Does that include taking out the overgrown stuff? Do we have to do that before we, because it's all the saplings that are all in there. Do we have to do that, to go talk to them before we do that?
The landscaping plan requirement, it's not that specific, but if you're requesting a reduction in parking, it does require a landscaping plan.
The landscaping plan doesn't require you to ask the city's permission before you do, I think, general maintenance. But what you do need to submit is a plan for how you're going to ultimately landscape it. So then that can be approved from a visual city
That makes sense.
perspective.
So
Aaron,
we
you
have
agree?
some plans for the landscaping, just to speak to you, that we have several textile artists, and we were planning on doing a dye garden where, our neighbors will be able to use, we could dye community workshops and dyeing fabric together.
Okay, just Karen had a thought on that.
No, I was going to, so what we would want to see is just a plan and then how you're going to implement it. And the idea is that then you're held to that maintenance. So it makes sense to put something on there that doesn't need mowed, in my opinion, because that's a steep hillside and not a safe place to have a mower. But I could see, being a gardener myself, a lot of plants that could go in there that would work
Rocks,
fine.
yeah.
You just want to consider also, your views going in and out of your driveway. So but you would draw up what your landscape plan would be, and it doesn't have to be a professional landscaper that does it. This can be what you do, and you submit it to staff, and we can work with you, and then that becomes your blueprint for what you're going to implement.
Okay, yeah.
We do have some master gardeners and
Yeah.
artists who already looked at this and been like, so many ideas. So yes, we will
That's great.
Yeah, and love the idea of some art.
And it has a lot of potential to be a really beautiful site as you drive up and down.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, 1 second. There any questions? I think we're done with questions for the applicant. Any questions for staff? Yes, I know, I'm just wanna, yeah. And so are there folks here for public comment? No, you don't need to apologize. But I think you came in a little late. We have to, okay, which is fine. We swore everybody in at the beginning of the meeting. So let me go in order and then we'll swear you in. So I saw 3 hands. Do you want to come up first and then just name, address, and affirm that confirm you've been sworn in?
Hi, Robin.
Oh, the chairs.
Good evening. My name is Robin Craig, C-R-A-I-G. My husband, David Williams, and I live at 2524 Edge Hill Road. We are 2 doors from St. Albans on the Edge Hill side. Our backyard backs up to the St. Albans parking lot. And we are so excited about this. We moved, I wanted to give you a little history because I know everyone isn't aware of the whole St. Albans background. We moved to our house 40 years ago this January. One of the appealing aspects of the neighborhood for us was the little white stucco church on the corner, known as St. Albans. It was very attractive. And at that time, of course, to us, it was just a building. But as we moved in and met people, we discovered that the Vosslers, the priest and his wife, were warm and welcoming. The congregation was lovely. It housed a small Montessori school where we had planned to enroll our children, but for a change in ownership. Anyway, it was a wonderful part of our little neighborhood at Edge Hill and Euclid Heights. Then came the terrible fire, which burned St. Albans to the ground and transformed everything. What we witnessed then for the next really about 35 years, the last 35 years, has been a valiant effort on the part of St. Albans to revive and live again. It took them a long time to determine how they were going to rebuild, and by that time, most of the membership had left. They tried several experiments with themselves and with different congregations, and it was just not feasible to recreate a church in that location. I'm a pastor and I have closed a church in Euclid. I'm very well aware of the challenges in maintaining a congregation during these times. And we could see how hard it was for St. Albans. We could see that the lawn maintenance for years and years really didn't happen. The basement remained unfinished, which we knew because we voted there. So we were in there every 2 years. And basically what had been this charming community was almost completely diminished to nothing. I don't know how long the building has been empty now, but it's been quite a while. You all probably know how many years it's been. St. Albans, the diocese has been maintaining the property. As Mike said, they mow even that difficult side piece. They maintain it maybe a little too much for us, but it is maintained. But the building sits there empty and unused. I like to think that I may have something to do with this because last summer at Cumberland Pool, I was talking to Susie Kaiser and we were talking about what had happened with the Coventry Peace Building. And I said, I know a perfect place for all of those artists and nonprofits. And without my help, they have discovered it. I want to tell you, emphasize, it's a wonderful building for them. It has all kinds of spaces that they've already planned, all of their offices and studios places. It has big spaces for these someday exhibits and performances and events. And it promises to be a wonderful addition to our little community on the corner. We are so happy that they want to come, and we urge you, Planning Commission, to do whatever it takes to make this a reality.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ma'am, in the mass, did you also want to speak? No. Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry.
She's lived here longer than I have.
And I'm sorry, I believe you were here when we swore everyone. No. Okay. Oh, so you know what? So why don't you stand there? Sir, if you'll rise, you'll both get sworn in together by our Assistant Law Director. No, you could just stay right there. You can stay right there. Justin, you.
How about you? Okay. You three, do you affirm or do you swear to testify to the truth? True? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we are a quasi-judicial body, so that's why we have to be so formal about these things, but we try to make the meetings enjoyable if we can. I just need your name and your address.
Certainly. I'm Deborah Neely, and I live right next door to the church, and I live at 2528 Edge Hill. I live in what was the church, I guess the church rectory, the Vosslers' home. So my side door opens right onto the property. So I am so excited that this is going to happen, or hopefully that will happen, because it's a lovely church, and I think it'll be a lovely studios and galleries for Artful. You know, what I would like, I think Robin and I and David and I both would think was that we'd like to be part of discussions about maybe the property around, because What's happened in the past is sometimes things happen that affect our property because our backyards, kind of open up into the parking lot and so on. So the beautiful plantings around, I'm happy to kind of share with you what's been put in there because I was always in conversations. But, I just can't wait for this to happen. And I'm an aspiring artist, so my little studio's up on the top floor. You'll see the windows, and it would be great to have to celebrate art. And I know there are artists on our street as well. Misha, who's at the Cleveland Institute of Art, and so on. So they're looking forward to this as well. They're not here this evening, but they wanted to come. So I just wanted to say, please, approve this and bring Artful to our neighborhood.
Thank you so much. Okay, sir, in the back, yeah. Just come on up and give us your name and your address.
Good evening, my name's Don Sebian, and we live at 2544 Euclid Heights Boulevard, which is directly across the street from St. Albans on the south side of Euclid Heights. And we've been there for, I think, 36 years. So we were there when the old church was there. We were there the night of the fire. And we're glad to see an organization that's going to go in and take constructive use of the property and do something creative with it. New people that were involved with Artful, and we were empathetic with their frustrations of the process they had to go through. So we're pleased that they found a new home too. I just had a couple, what I thought were low-level questions, and I know the first one, which is about parking, is probably already considered resolved. How many spaces are there now?
Well, so just for the purposes of the,
Of the church?
so public comment is directed towards the commission.
I
I'll answer
apologize.
whatever, no, it's fine. I'll answer whatever questions we can answer, and then we can always go back to the applicant.
Okay,
So we have
I
20
just wondered how many spaces there were now, and does the proposal represent a removal and a reduction of some of the spaces?
I don't think so. I think if anything, they're adding spaces, but the total spaces that will be there are 23.
Okay, all right. I just had no idea because I thought if it meant reducing spaces, I was just concerned what the motivation would be. I would say I've been to a number of the events over at the grade school that Artful had, and sometimes there were very large crowds. Now large enough that I think sometimes people were couldn't find a place to park and would go elsewhere. And there's a lot of alternatives in that neighborhood of side streets and maybe even Mark's lots that people could park and easily, get to the school. The neighborhood we're in is a little bit different. None of the public lots are very close, and Euclid Heights especially is a particularly busy road. So for people to be parking on that and crossing the street and stuff in an evening when there might be a lot of traffic is just something to consider for parking capacity. I realize it's probably only a handful of nights a year that something like that would happen, or during the afternoon whenever the events happen. But I just want to make sure that aspect of it, that it's kind of a different parking situation in my opinion. And as I said, especially the amount of traffic and sometimes the speed on Euclid Heights and to a lesser extent on Edge Hill is something that should be considered when looking at the parking and what would be required for special events. How many of those people might have to go on the street? And I'll just...
No, that's the conversation we were having perhaps before you came in, was that this conditional use permit is only for the studio and office space use. And once they are cleared by the building and the housing and fire for the assembly space to have large events, they have to come back to the commission with an updated parking plan for a replacement conditional use permit.
Okay.
So we'll have an opportunity to assess that at that time.
Okay, thank you. And the only other one was, what are the intended hours that the facility will be open? Is it 24/7, that it's always open, or is it only going to be open for certain hours 7 days a week or just certain days a week.
So the applicant, when they were doing their presentation and also staff, it's going to be key only access 24 hours, 7 days a week. However, they're expecting most of the use to happen during business hours.
Okay, all right. That's all I had. Thank you very much for your time.
Our pleasure. Sir, did you want to have public comment? No. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bob, you had a comment? Yeah.
Sure. Even though I've never been part of Artful, I think Brady and Shannon know, I've been kind of involved on the edges since the beginning. I remember when they looked at a building owned by motor cars at the beginning, and it was empty but too expensive. And then, of course, once they landed in the Coventry School, I was with the Future Heights group, not as an employee, but, board president, things like that. So we've been, that type of neighbor as well. I have to say, I have been amazed at the way Artful has grown. When they took space in the Coventry building, well, okay, it's like, is this going to work out? And within a fairly short time, they filled half the building. And just amazing. And it's already been talked about that Cleveland Heights is home to the arts. This is a group that really gives reality to that statement. They are artists, and they've created a place for artists. It's really an amazing success story. And I just wanted to congratulate them, and I'm so happy that they found the space. Because it's not easy. Other communities, Detroit Shoreway, Lakewood, other places have artist studios. It's a hard thing to find. And the fact that they found the space here and they're going to be able to stay in Cleveland Heights is amazing, and I congratulate them.
Thank you. Any other questions before we, I'll close public comment, but any other questions from the commission for staff or the applicant? Okay, so we need to. Oh. I just closed public comment. That's okay. Let's open it again. Go ahead. We're pretty okay. So, yes, state your name and just state your name. We'll track the address.
Okay, it's Deborah Neely on Edge Hill. I think one of the things that was just said about, and I understand you'll try to keep it within business hours, but it's that 24 hours. I live directly next to it, and I'm alone. I feel a little insecure about, maybe I just would like some assurance that that 24 hours is considerate of safety for the next door neighbor and the people around, because that's a lot of activity at night. It could be in the dark. And, if people maybe walking around the structure, I'd be concerned because it's right in my windows. And that's all I wanted to say, was that's a concern for me.
Okay, thanks so much. We're going to have the applicant address that, so you could take a seat. Yeah. And then who from the applicant wants to talk about that?
Shannon Morris again. I understand that 100%. The only reason that we say 24 hours is because, some people work, they have very limited time. Our experience at the Coventry Peace Building, we had 24-hour access. We had one artist that came at 10 o'clock at night. That's it. They came, they stayed for an hour, they went home. We give them that opportunity because they're paying for that access. If we limit that limits their imagination almost. It's kind of but we've never really had anybody that came in the middle of the night, and they would only use the front door.
That was going to be my question.
They have to enter through the front door. That is the only entrance. And, so they won't be wandering around. Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so I think we're at the point where we can make a motion, but we want to make a motion using the language from the agenda and with the 6 conditions. And we also want to edit condition number 4 to say the applicant is not to hold assemblies until the pertinent requirements from the building and fire code are met, and a new conditional use permit is issued. Okay. Okay. Is there a motion? I'm not supposed to make the motions, guys, so, okay, all right, here we go.
Artful enough to make them.
I'm going to make a.
Yeah. Is your mic on?
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we approve project number 25-11, Artful for the St. Albans Parish property, 2555.
I think your mic is not on. Can you? There it is.
Oh, there it goes. Now it's bright. Okay, project number 2511, Artful, the St. Albans Parish, 2555 Euclid Heights Boulevard. Request approval for the conditional use permit for the adaptive reuse of the non-residential building, and also to become a community arts center with private studios and office, and a reduction in the required on-site parking to allow 23 parking spaces.
Do we have to do them separately? Do we have to do A and B separately, or no?
No, I don't think
We've
so.
done that
Yeah.
before, okay.
No. To allow the 23 parking spaces where 56 are required per code chapters as listed on the agenda sheet, including the 6 staff recommendations there and the adjustment to number 4, which is going to require a new conditional use permit when all the conditions have been met to begin having assembly type activity.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I just want to say that this is really exciting. I'm really thrilled that we can fill a vacant building and something good can come out of all the stuff that happened with Coventry. So this is amazing. I'm also curious, and I'll ask staff when we're not in a motion, if the Economic Development Department helped them find this location, because if not, we should be doing some more work to get our community groups into our spaces. But really excited for this, and I think this is a fantastic way to continue the arts work and commitment that happens in this city, still in our city. Anybody else? Comments? No? Okay. With that, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any? Nothing? No? No? Okay. With that, it's unanimous, and congratulations. We're excited to see how this shapes up. And now you guys can start asking the city to pave the road on Euclid Heights Boulevard with the rest of us, because nobody's speeding down that road these days. But thank you very much. We're going to do some old business and maybe new business, but you are not needed to stay. And if you have any questions for staff along with the process, they're here for you. So congratulations. Okay, so I guess staff report and old business, we could, it's all the same, but thank you so much.
No.
And this has, Karen, this has everything in it, right?
So I'm doing some updates. So the first update that I wanted to let you know is that on our website, and I kind of put this here because it's sometimes hard to see, the places of worship, revised places of worship language for a zoning code amendment is posted there for public comment. So we wanted to make sure the planning commission could see it. So if you go, you can kind of see that you come, these drop downs, go to zoning amendment, and then, but let me go ahead and click on this so you can see what the site, well, except that maybe this isn't going to work. There we go. So there's the zoning amendments, and then as you scroll down, you're going to see that here's our places of worship. So we have some information here, as well as some frequently asked questions. There is some place where you can leave some comments. This will be published. The fact that this is posted on our website will be published in the weekly email blast that goes out for the next few weeks. After the budget is finalized, then the mayor intends to introduce this into legislation, is our understanding as staff. So this is where that is at the moment, just to give you an update on places of worship legislation. Okay.
Very promising.
So that is pretty exciting. Maybe if I can get back to where I was.
And I would say just my comment on this is we've been waiting a long time to get this to where it is right now. So if there are, certainly it'll go out in the newsletter, but for the commission, if there are houses of worship or folks that that are, interested in this, I would direct them to the comment page proactively, because I think that often, and this happened with the zoning for, what was that just had the hearing? Oh, for the Park Synagogue, where if there are not enough people that show up and indicate that they're interested in this, we want to show that there's interest, there's a need, like all of the things that we assessed when we did this and put it forward. It would be nice to have community members to share their thoughts on this as well. And also if people are opposed, I mean, the more visibility, the more public input we get, the better, off everything will be. So.
And Madam Chair, that's one of the primary purposes, is to just make sure this has a little bit of opportunity for everybody to see it and think about it before the formal process starts. And then, of course, the formal zoning amendment process will begin again. As you know, it gets introduced into legislation, gets referred to Planning Commission. We have a public meeting to discuss it publicly and hear comment. We make a recommendation, it goes back to City Council. They have a public hearing specifically on the zoning amendment, and then they would consider legislation.
So how much time is that going to take?
That's the process. So it just depends on how much discussion there is and how quickly, everything gets settled. The budget has to get settled first, and then we hope to have this introduced as the legislation.
And just to game it out for a second, if this does get introduced to council in April, that's basically essentially throwing it back to us. So they're not hearing it, they're just proposing that it comes to us. Depending on that meeting, it could be 2 weeks to 4 weeks to us. So you're talking about most a month. We would, May, we would pass it here, send it back to council, and they have a choice at that point. See, I've memorized this process now that we've talked about it for so long. They have a choice at that point to put it to their planning committee, planning and development committee, or just having a public hearing with all of council on it. And depending on that, might take, 2 to 4 weeks to more. And then they vote on it. And then that's the final vote. Once they have the public hearing, they're able to vote on it. And then it becomes in effect.
Right, so then it becomes in effect. So it depends on how they put it together, but typically 30 days after they vote.
Right. And I can assure you on the commission, all of you, that I have been in contact with council. Jim stepped out, but I have been in contact with them, and they understand how much of a long, drawn-out process this has been, how eager we are to see this get in front of the public, but also get in front of council so they can consider it with all the consideration and care that they, do these things with. And they know that we're, really pushing to not have this sit for another, 6 months to a year while we go through the process. So I'm hoping that once it gets to council, we can move fairly efficiently through the process at the very least, if not, quickly.
So, are we ready to move on to the next one? Sorry, I don't mean to end up.
I guess anything else on that or any other concerns? No? Okay.
Okay. So then we just wanted to let you know that Park Synagogue, we're working with them. City Council did hold a public hearing on the zoning map amendment, and they felt like they didn't hear enough comments or from people, so they wanted to wait 2 weeks before they vote. So they should be considering that zoning amendment then on March 17th, which is Monday. So we've updated this schedule. Also, you should know that we initially thought they would be back in April to work on guidelines with us to do the first preliminary, the full-blown, not preliminary, but the full-blown introduction of their plan. That's going to be pushed back till May. So this is an updated schedule. We have started a website, again, on our, if I can get this to work. There we go. So we do have a Park Synagogue website with some basic information on it, and including the updated schedule, so that the public can have some understanding of where we are in the process and where and how. We included that favorite chart of yours, where and how to comment on information. So, we're excited about it. They're still excited about it. They're working with many different disciplines and teams of people drawing. So part of the delay is because the landscape architects or whomever is doing the drawings aren't able to get everything that they needed to get to us so that they could move forward in April, but they are doing that.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think the Park Synagogue site, I saw the landing page also as I was searching for the houses of worship today, and I think it's fantastic. My question is, when two things. One, when we have anything with Park Synagogue, that project on the agenda, can we include the website on the public agenda that we release so people can refer back to that? I'm seeing nods.
Sure,
Yes,
we,
yes.
I'm sorry, yes, I was making myself a note so I didn't forget, but
Right,
yes.
no. And then is that also going to go out in the newsletter? Because I don't see why we wouldn't at some point.
Yes, that will also be advertised so that people know where to go. And I've also encouraged the Park Synagogue folks to think about having a website of their own where they can provide more detail and information. I don't go into the history, obviously, because we were trying to stay focused on process. And they have a lot of exciting things that they could talk about that we aren't necessarily talking about.
Any questions on Park Synagogue? Okay. Karen, can you also send out this PowerPoint to all of us?
I'd be happy to, sure. Sure. And then just the last thing I wanted to let you know that this is also becoming to us probably in May, maybe June, the Domebrook restoration at Horseshoe Park. You remember that's where the dam is scheduled to be removed, and that park design is now at 90%. Complete. So we will be having another public, the sewer district has a lot of information on their website, but they will be doing another public presentation. Actually, on March 17th, they'll be presenting it to City Council at a council of the whole meeting. And then later in the week, they do the same thing for the Shaker Council. But then on March 31st, they will be doing a virtual meeting. And then they follow it up on April 1st with an in-house meeting at the Cleveland Heights University Heights Library main campus. So they'll be there a couple times throughout the day. There it's more of they have boards and you can come talk to them. So the presentation is where they can like review in detail everything that's going on. The in-person is more of an open house with boards where you can come in and ask a specific question about it. But they're very good also about all of these virtual meetings, allowing folks to email or send questions in, and they try to address as many as they can during that night. And if not, they always add a list of questions and responses so that folks can see what's going on. So it's getting exciting. We'll see what the public thinks about it. But because it is Parkland, as you know, parks are part of what Planning Commission reviews. It will come back to Planning Commission just as a review of where it is. And
So that was my question. It's coming to us. I guess I know parks are in our purview, but what are we taking action on it? Do we have to approve it, or?
I think we will ask you to approve the plan when you get to look at it. It's it's a large park, has a lot of plants. It's shared between the two communities, but it's designed to function and serve the community as one park. And the communities are working together to develop agreements to try to assure that occurs. So I think it's been a good exercise on how two communities that have a shared park space can work together for a better product.
Just out of curiosity, what happens if we want them to change something, but Shaker Heights doesn't want them to? Like, how does that work?
We'll have to work with that. So you've seen most of it. I gave you an update not too long ago when we were doing our park planning, and I would encourage you to look at either on the sewer district's webpage, which they have their whole process and all of the public comment that they've had into it. But I think if there's something valid that you're concerned about, we definitely want to, draw that to their attention and have it looked at. So
Can you include the sewer district website or?
I sure can.
I don't know if that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, if you just go to NEORSD /Horseshoe Lake, it's going to pop right up.
Okay. Great. Any questions or comments on this? Okay.
Actually, I have it, I think, up there. Maybe not. Oh, no, that's a link to the city council meeting in case you wanted to, and that'll get recorded also because it's committee of the whole, in case you wanted to hear that presentation.
If I could just add that I'm on that website now, and the March 31st meeting at 6 p.m. is via Zoom.
Right.
So did you say that? I'm sorry.
I use the term virtual, but you're right. It is it's a Zoom meeting.
I was probably reading and didn't hear you, so that's very helpful.
Yeah,
That's been their process during this whole meeting, is they did one meeting via Zoom, which I found to be a very effective way for them to really get to explain everything. And then the second meeting, they always held in person as more of an open house format, which was nice because then people could come either for the first time or if they saw the presentation and had a specific detail that they wanted to discuss more thoroughly, they have that opportunity.
you have anything else on?
Those are that's all I have for planning updates. I think Brooke has an update on a prior case. Did you want to report on Ms. Dixon?
Yeah, Ms. Dixon gave us most of her parking plan. I'm still waiting on some final details, but we should be able to issue her permit by the end of this week, I believe.
Okay, that's great. Good news. Yeah. Do we have cases for April? Because now everything seems to be pushed to May. So I'm just curious what's on the agenda for April.
I didn't get any applications. I think Abundance Culinary wants to do some outdoor seating, but it might be administrative, so we might not have them come either.
Okay, so potentially not a meeting.
Yep.
It's also 2 days before Passover, so I'm not gonna force us to meet if we don't have anything to meet about. So that's fine. Okay, great. All right, anything else? Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have a comment. I mentioned to Kenneth, that was the most joyful application I have been a witness to in the approximate 2 years I've been on the commission. It was a wonderful reuse of space. I didn't even know that St. Albans was vacant. I don't drive down there that often, but I certainly will now. I'm looking so forward to what happens in that space. And all of the other comments from people who have lived there 30-some and 40 years, that they're so supportive. It must have been wonderful to work with that applicant.
Artful's a wonderful group, yeah.
Yeah, Artful is a wonderful group, and I was familiar with them, but to see this move to such an appropriate location and so much, and well-planned, the way that it was presented was very, very thorough and easy to read. So thank you. Good job. And I'm just really looking forward to it.
And my question still stands about why we're not actively directing nonprofits and folks into these spaces. I mean, I didn't even know what was in there. I drive past it 1,000 times a month.
So I do think that they showed them and talked about many different spaces. This just didn't happen to be one. However, at some point, I know that they were in communications.
Okay, that makes me feel better because
talking with them about other.
It's such an asset to the city. It would be a shame.
The city has another, actually, city-owned empty space that will possibly have nonprofits, and that's the Coventry Garage. The storefront there made Cleveland close, which is the store that's been in there the past several years, and it's empty now.
Oh, interesting. Well, they had that court case or whatever. They weren't paying the people, right? Yeah.
I know. It was difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.